Hello, Friends in Fiction Official Book Club. Happy Monday, or I should say happy Tuesday for our Australian friends. Welcome to our book club discussion of The Younger Wife with the fabulous Sally Hepworth. We are so excited. My name is Lisa Harrison, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Brenda Gardner. And we have been chomping at the bit for this night. We are so excited. So before we go any further, Brenda, would you like to introduce our special guest?
I would be delighted to. Tonight we have Sally Hepworth with us talking about her amazing novel, The Younger Wife. She's the New York Times bestselling author of 7 novels, most recently The Younger Wife. Her novel, The Mother-in-Law, has been optioned for a TV series by Hollywood actress and producer Amy Peeler. Drawing on the good, the bad, and the downright odd of human behavior, Sally writes incisively about families, relationships, and identity. Her domestic thriller novels are laced with quirky humor, sass, and a darkly charming tone. Sally's novels are available around the globe in English and have been translated into 20 languages. She sold more than 1 million books worldwide, and she lives in Melbourne, Australia with her husband and 3 children. Her next book, The Soulmate, will be out in November 2022 in Australia and New Zealand, and we definitely want to hear more about that later. So without any further ado, welcome, Sally.
Yay! She's coming on.
She's coming.
She's playing a trick on us. Well, all I can do is giggle.
I know, technology, right? We know she's there.
Yeah. Sally, if you want to, I don't know, you want to turn your camera on, and there she is.
I think, okay, I'm just, I'm trying to turn the camera on. I'm so sorry. I'm here. I just can't see the button. Don't you love technology? All right, hang on. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get there. 1 second.
You got it.
Okay.
I don't doubt it.
Where? Turn it on. Oh, I'll say I'm unmuted.
Yes, we can hear you.
God, okay, I'm not going to swear
or start video.
It's
Oh no, we got it, guys. Gotta love worldwide technology.
I sent you and asked to start video. Yay!
Oh my goodness. This is the kind of thing that no amount of planning can prepare you for, isn't it? We got on 15 minutes early. It was all working. Sorry, I'm just putting you back on my... And then when we're live... Hello, everyone. Hey. I apologize. That was my mistake, not you guys. This is how technological I am.
I think you were just creating a little extra suspense there for us, like in your novels.
I'm always the thriller writer. My apologies. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to finally be here.
Well, thank you so much, Sally, and good evening to our book club members, and good morning to you because it's about 9 o'clock in Australia. So we appreciate you being with us. Sally, there is just I'm sorry. We have a little bit more video delay than usual too because of the distance. Okay. But what I wanted to mention was there's so much to unpack in this novel and in this family with just so much dysfunction. So I would love to hear a summary of the book, but I had a few things to mention to our book club members first. We will have spoilers after 7:15. So if you have not read the book, that is great. That's fine. just turn off the volume or join us back later if you haven't read the book. Please put your questions for Sally in the chat so Lisa can see them. We have some advanced questions that were submitted, but we're excited to hear from you tonight. So with that, Sally, could you give us a summary of this sort of slow burn suspense novel?
Yes, this is The Younger Wife, and this is the American cover because I think that they're mostly Americans on here, but there are different covers in different countries, so don't be thrown. It is the same book. And this book, if anyone's read any of my previous books, it won't be a surprise to hear that it is about dysfunctional families, which is my favorite thing to write about. And this particular dysfunctional family is the Aston family, who is comprised of Stephen Aston, who is the father. He's a heart surgeon in his 60s. His wife, Pam, who is currently suffering with dementia and is in a nursing home, and their two adult daughters, Rachel and Tully, who are in their 30s. And the book kicks off with the announcement of Stephen to his daughters that he is going to marry a woman who is younger than they are. And that is obviously controversial enough without considering that he's still married to their mother, who is in the nursing home with dementia. And I guess the bit I skipped out is that announcement happens in the second chapter. In the first chapter, we are at the wedding before we flash back, and at the wedding of Stephen Aston and his new younger bride, someone is injured, murdered. We know that after the vows took place, they went off into another room, and there was a big commotion. And then the celebrant runs out, and she has got blood all over her white pantsuit. So the book then goes back in time with the announcement of the impending wedding, and we see all the players who are involved in this family and the lead up to what happens at the wedding. That's the book.
Fabulous. And I can tell you, after reading it, I was wishing I had you right there with me as I went along to say, wait, what?
Oh, thank you. That's the greatest. That's lovely feedback.
So we're gonna talk about spoilers in a few minutes, but first, I'd like to ask you just a few questions from our members, and this is sort of a general one from Brenda Gaskell. What were your favorite and least favorite things about the U.S. from your recent tour?
Oh, I don't know if any of you were following me on Instagram during that tour. It was the most fun. It's up there with my favorite experiences of my life. And I think part of that was because it came off the heels of a 2-year pandemic, where there were not author events. Here in Australia, we did have a very strict lockdown where we weren't allowed to leave our homes. And so at the end of that, to get on a plane from Australia and go around the US, I mean, that is about as exciting as this Australian girl, gets. And being in New York and Texas is somewhere that's I've never been, and it was on my bucket list, and South Carolina. I mean, I went to so many places. I don't know what the worst thing was. I don't think there was a worst thing. It was the best thing was meeting the readers, and many of whom I had connected with and felt like and were friends with, that these people had become a part of my life, and we were interacting and had shared so much, over the previous few years. And so I was just hugging it out with so many amazing people. Anissa, who I think is on here, took me out for dinner with her friends, and we had lemon drops, which I'd never had before. They were really good. I had a couple of them before my event, and it was very lucky that I was able to speak. Yeah, I can't think of a negative thing. I mean, maybe that I was tired at the end, but you couldn't wipe the smile off my face. And I like to think I'm an honorary American because I left a bit of my heart there for sure. And I'll be back.
We can't wait.
That is fabulous. When you come back, what is the first thing you're going to do you think? Was there something you were just like?
I'm going to get cash, because another thing that happened when I was there, which perhaps was the low point, was that my card stopped working. Every time I moved somewhere new, my bank freaked out and I couldn't get cash out. And I was somewhere new every day, right? Because I was, going from place to place. And when I was in Greenville, it was the night I met Anissa, I had no money, or like $3 or something. And I had to get strangers to come and give me cash. Anissa gave me cash. We've never met. And I'm this Australian author. I'm 42 years old on the other side of the world, and strangers are giving me cash. I thought, this is weird. But also, so get cash is what I'm going to do. But also, I think if next time, I'm not going to get away with not taking my kids to Disneyland. So I think there'll be a Florida stop, and I'd quite like to go too. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm sure you have plenty of readers who are willing to pass the hat.
And I promised I'm gonna because I don't even have Venmo, right? We don't have that in Australia. But I promised I've got to come back just to pay people back.
Well, hey, that's a pretty good deal if you can just, pay for dinner and then have you come back. So what an awesome opportunity.
It works for me.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, I did want to ask you one more question before we kind of get into the plot of the book, and that is about your writing style. Francine from our book club wants to know if you write your novels from beginning to end, or if you skip around, and how much do you know in the beginning?
Again, I often listen to authors answer these questions, and I think, that's how I should do it. Yes, that's the way. And I have diagnosed ADHD, and when my family found out, because I was diagnosed as an adult, they were like, well, yeah, obviously you do, because I'm your classic scatty, confused, losing my stuff kind of person. And that's a little bit how I write my books, and always changing. I have written some of them from beginning to end with a really elaborate plan of how I do it. And that might be in Scrivener, it might be on the wall, with Post-its. Every way that anyone's ever written a book, I have done. And the one thing I would say is consistent is that I am a planner. I do start out with a plan, but I sometimes deviate wildly from that plan, and other times I stick to it. The only thing that, I guess is consistent is that it's always a little bit different. And I think that's me kind of outrunning my brain, because if I get bored as someone with ADHD, that's the death knell. So always a little bit different. Every story, I think, commands to be written a little bit differently. There are different characters that speak at different times. There are times when you absolutely should jump forward to fill in something that you don't know yet, and then go back. And for me, I always say everything for me, because then I'll listen to someone I adore, Leanne Moriarty, or, Lisa Jewell, or Kristen Harmel, talk about the wonderful way they do it. And I think that's how I should do it too. But we're all different.
One thing we learn from Friends in Fiction is that there are a million different ways to do it. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned those authors, because we have a special pop-in guest to ask you a question tonight.
Kristen,
they can't see her yet.
That makes me feel real.
Sorry. Hey. I was like happily watching the feed on my phone, like with no awareness that I was going to be on it. I was like, oh, Sally just mentioned me. That's so cool. And I'm like sitting here with my ear. Anyways, yeah. How are you?
You just look like that when you're not expecting to be on camera. That is not right. I would be there with my hair in a pineapple and my glasses on in my tracksuit.
Sally, this hair has not been washed 4
Oh.
days now. 4 days.
No, get out.
Disgusting.
Stop it. You are
Yeah,
gorgeous.
you guys are so lucky this is not a smell-o-vision like version of Friends and Fiction tonight.
I don't believe it. Kristen, while I have you, just to be clear, who do you like better, me or Kelly Rimmer?
Ooh.
This is a
Sally.
long-standing war, just so we
Sally.
know, between Kelly and I.
Obviously, you and I are BFFs, Sally, right? I mean,
Kelly,
obviously.
if you're watching this back. Sorry, guys, that's an in joke because Kelly Rimmer, who is a friend of mine, another Aussie, and I have been obsessed with Kristen for all of our writing lives, which is ironically the way we ended up on Friends and Fiction in the first place. And now we're just battling it out to see who gets to be Kristen's BFF. And Kristen very, intelligently chooses the one who can be, most helpful to her at the time, which is absolutely the
pretty
right
much whichever
answer
one
to have.
asks me at the moment. I'm like, it's you, Sally. Yes.
When it's live. I love you, Kristen.
I love you too, Sally.
Sorry,
I kind of hate to continue on with the book club after all that. Kristen does have a question for you.
Yes, okay. I do. So Sally, so I loved this book. I've gushed about it. I've told you how much I love it. I've talked on social media about how much I love it. But this is the book club's night. I am here to support the book club. And so we have a question from book club member JJ Novak, who asks the following. Evidently, the published ending of the book in the US is not the same as it was when it was published in Australia and in US advanced reader copies. What led you to change the ending in the final US copies, and which ending do you prefer? And then I want to talk a little bit about this.
Yes. Okay. So are we in the spoiler-free period now? Okay.
718 here. We are
excited.
We can say
all the
spoilers.
Good, because this was something I wanted to talk about on tour, even because it was a big part of the book, but of course you can't really talk about it without it being a spoiler. One thing that I'm not 100% sure of, it was my understanding that the advanced reader copy had the previous ending, and that all published copies, including in Australia, had the new ending.
Oh, okay,
now,
okay.
But I have since heard people say that wasn't the case, and I will tell you that I never ever reread my books once it's published, because why would you? That would just be hideous.
Well, because you see all the things you've done wrong that you are at that point completely powerless to fix, right?
Like, what kind of sadist would do that? But in any case, let's just assume that what I know is that the ending was changed. I don't know exactly where that was captured. And the reason for that was a number of things. One is that when you're writing a book, as you know, Kristen, you're focusing on so many things: plot, the characters, and I got it to a certain point, and you want to have like this great twist, and you want to have, all these things happening. And there's so many things at play in a book. And it's often not until I read a book in its finished form, where I've stepped away from it a little bit, and I read it and I think, oh, and this is before it's actually published, so I do actually read it. There is a chance to change it. And you think, oh, that's not exactly what I meant.
Yep.
That's not where it was meant to land. And so with this book, it was all about the women, right? So I write books for women, about women, dealing with women's issues. And so I was reading it through, and obviously the book was about coping mechanisms and these three women that are coping with something that's happened to them. And so I got to the end of the book, and I'd thrown in this twist, and I thought, this is not right, because what it's saying, the whole premise of the book is that at the start of it, these three women don't trust themselves, right? They don't know, they've seen what's true, but they don't believe it. And I got to the end and I thought, fun twist, but actually the end of this book needs to be that the women can trust themselves and that what they know is true. And even without proof, they're able to know that that is the truth. And it came to me later than it normally happens. You know, usually that's not unusual for me to have those aha moments as I draft. And I thought this unintentionally sets back things like Believe Women, and which is again not what I'm about. And so I looked at it and I thought, and I also noticed that some people were saying, oh, this is you know, this is not good for women. And I thought, no, it's not. This is not what I'm about, you know, because I do believe women. And I realized the ending. And so I went back, and it was a real hullabaloo. I went back to my publishers and said, I have just realized something and I want to change it. And the arcs had been printed. My publishers were amazing. They said, yes, you can change it. And it never came from a place of thinking you're going to get cancelled or, you know, people won't like you. It came from a place of, this is not the right ending for this book, and this is not what I believe. And I was really thrilled with how the publishers handled it. And, you know, in the end, the controversy over the end got people talking about the book a lot too.
So
but
true. Yeah.
I'm glad that the right ending got into the published, you know, version, because that was the right ending for the book. No question.
Well, and you didn't change it that much, right? Like it was just from what I understand, it was like a very small tweak that just slightly changed the way it landed.
It was only the epilogue, so Pam's version, and it was a couple of lines further up. So it was the littlest little tweak.
Yeah, but it changed.
But it just really, it just really made it clear, rather than having the first idea, of course, was to be, you know, let people decide if he was guilty or not. In my mind, I thought he was guilty, but I thought, you know, let's gaslight the reader as well and make them not believe it. But what I needed to come across was that the women were right, that they should have believed themselves, and just to really firm up, you know, yes, he's guilty. It's not a matter of choice.
Well, you know, to me, what's so interesting about that is that, like, I know that's how it was in your head the entire time, but it's like you get so involved in the plot and you know what's happening and you know who these characters are. And like what you did was clever, because you were saying, like, this, you know, I will leave it up to you to decide, but of course you'll see things the way I will see it, but that's not always the way that it is, right? Like, I'm gonna give a spoiler for The Forest of Vanishing Stars now. So if anyone who's not read it, like, plug your ears for 30 seconds. But
spoiler alert.
So in The Forest of Vanishing Stars, I've gotten a lot of complaints or questions about, well, why does Yona die at the end? Yona doesn't die at the end. Like, it's like you think she does, and then the last, like, the epilogue clears that up. But like, if you don't read it with exactly what I was intending to say, like, I can see how you'd get confused. So I completely like I completely identify with what you had to do and why you had to do it. But it's so hard to see that when you're in the book and you're hustling to get it. I mean, just like me, you're a busy mom who's writing and, like, struggling to meet these deadlines. And I don't know. I felt for you that whole time, and I think it ended where it was supposed to, but man, that's difficult.
Thank you. You know, I do have those moments throughout the writing process all the time, like, and we all love those moments where bang, like, this is what was meant to happen, you know, that knot just untangles. And this time it happened later than it normally does. And what I know, I guess, and you the same, you've written a number of books, is that if you continue to write books, things will happen. You know, you will unintentionally do something that will offend someone. You will make mistakes. You will realize something too late. You'll write a book that in 10 years it won't age well. And that is kind of the risk of what we do. You know, I know that in general, and the people I know, our hearts are pure and we're wanting to tell a story that we think represents, you know, life. But I have learned to kind of be resilient too, in that you sometimes get it wrong. And I, for one, am the one to go, I got it wrong, sorry. And then you just keep going.
I think that's amazing, because clearly, to me, clearly what you were trying to do was like a really cool narrative arc that ended in a really clever way. But it was the way it landed. I mean, that was it. Like you were taking a risk as a writer and pushing yourself a little bit further. But then you had the wisdom to say, okay, like I just have to insert that extra paragraph so that this says what I mean for it to say at the end, you know? Yeah. Well, and that, Sally, is why you're my best friend. So.
Oh, stop.
And not Kelly.
This is recorded.
Yes.
And you can guess that this is going to be screenshotted, or that bit's going to get repeated over and over again.
So Sally, I assume you won't be tuning in later when Brenda and Lisa at some point host Kelly, and I say the exact same thing to her. We can count on you to just be comfortably asleep.
Yeah.
Sleeping
I won't be around.
Yeah.
That's right. I'll be sleeping in. Oh, it's so lovely to talk to you. I love talking to you. Thank you for jumping
Sally.
in.
Oh, it was so good to see you.
So good to see you.
So happy to see all the wonderful things happening for you. You deserve them all.
Thank you. And you.
Oh, thanks
so much,
the love
Kristen.
Thank you for jumping in, Kristen. We really appreciate you popping in.
Thanks, Lisa
You've
and
been
Brenda.
awesome.
I'm so excited for the two of you. I know we're celebrating your 2nd anniversary this week, which is so exciting. And I'm going to be seeing you two later in the week.
Yep.
Yes.
We'll see you Thursday.
All right. Sally, have so much fun. You guys have fun.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Kristen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was
Well,
awesome.
surprises are so much fun.
I know.
love a surprise. There's
I was
always
so
surprises on
excited.
here.
I was so excited when you said Kristen. I'm thinking, just wait a few minutes.
Waiting in the wings.
Okay, so I do have I have a couple of book club questions.
Yeah.
And the first one I'm going to ask anonymously, because one of our book club members came forward after reading this book and shared their story with me, and it was so powerful. I wanted to share it with you. They said they're curious how you knew how to write so well about Stephen's dark side. I was a victim. I'm going to read it in her words. I'm curious how Sally knew how to write so well about Stephen's dark side. I was a victim of someone like him, and I finally saw the truth, filed for a restraining order. It was ugly, but I got out. This book wrote about the destruction someone like that can have to all of those closest to them. So spot on that I wonder how she did it so well. How did you research for his dark side? And they added, I loved this book. It caused me to celebrate how far I've come from that nightmare. Now, before you answer, I just want to say to this book club member, thank you for sharing your truth. And if it helps anyone else, it was so worth you to be so brave. So, Sally,
Yes, it was.
How did you research Stephen's dark side?
And I also want to start by thanking that reader for sharing that. One of the most sort of powerful things that has come out of this book have been letters like that I have received from people, some of whom I know and didn't know that this was going on for them, and which is testimony to how prevalent it is, but also how, as women, which by and large, this kind of thing happens to, are good at hiding it and actually protecting the people that are harming them. Which is incredibly worrying, but I think that there's a lot of power in talking about it. So thank you. How did I go about researching it? I have got a friend who has been through, not this exactly, a different situation, but and in that situation there was not physical violence, but there was it was emotional abuse, financial abuse, various other kinds of abuse that was then denied. That gaslighting element, which was, I watched firsthand it sending her mad, and years after she's left that relationship, I can still see how it's eroded her. And that in part was the impetus behind this book, but it's not her story. It's the result of so many stories that I read about. One in particular was a family who, very similar to this, their father was their hero. And it wasn't until after he died, and no one killed him in that situation, but it wasn't until after he died that they all started sharing stories and realizing that they had all experienced the same thing. And this was a kind of also a really like upper middle class family. Don't talk about these things. This couldn't happen to us family, which was, you know, really shocking. There was also this one story that I read on a Reddit page or one of those forum type things that stayed with me about a woman and her boyfriend at the time, and she went on to marry him, but they were walking along the beach and they were having an argument, and then he put out his foot and tripped her over. And she said, and she watched it happen, and she said, "What did you just do?" And he said, I didn't do anything. And that was the beginning. You know, that was the first time that she thought, well, of course that would be a weird thing to do. And the lies that we tell ourselves because of what we believe good, respectful, normal behavior is. And so, you know, there were a few little germs that came together and that were then backed up with just some amazing books that have been written with real life stories of women. I might, or a couple of men who were in this situation. And there were just so many universal truths. You know, this is fiction, but I pulled together the real undercurrents of what I was hearing in every story, which is control, a complete lack of responsibility from the perpetrator, and all of these people rallying to protect this person. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. That really, so brave.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. And one of our book club members that I believe you know him well, Dallas Strawn, would like for you to share the funny he would like for you to share the funny review that mentions the jellyfish. He says he's officially run out of questions to ask you, so he just wants to hear you tell this story again.
Oh, it's going to take me a minute to find
the jellyfish.
It's the best review. It's a 1-star. I'm going to search for it while we.
Okay.
So for those of you that don't know, Sally will. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. The delay.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that I have historically read out my 1-star reviews because they're so funny. I mean, they really are. I mean, some of them aren't, but some of them are so well written and so funny. And this, my publisher said, you shouldn't be reading out your 1-star review, Sally. It's not good for marketing. And also it, you know, and I do actually take the idea seriously that reviews are for readers, not for authors. I hate it when authors fight back and say, no, you're wrong. And that is absolutely never my intention when I read out the 1-star reviews. It's more me laughing at myself rather than the reviewer. But gosh, it's fun to read them out.
I feel like some of the 1-star reviews, though, are people, I feel like a lot of them are just people trying to get attention or trying to, I don't feel like a lot of those are true reviews. I think it's just people that don't have anything better to do. That's just my opinion.
I mean, and some of them are legitimately, you know, they just hated the book. This is a fun one. Okay, this isn't it, but this one's just come up. But this is one of my favorites. Okay, it's for the family next door.
Okay.
Many people go through life not understanding what their purpose is. I felt this way until I read this book. That sounds good, right? What was I put here for? after reading this book, I realized my purpose must be to advise anyone I can to avoid this book.
Oh my gosh.
It goes on, but that's my favorite. That's my favorite bit. Okay, here we go. I've got the jellyfish one. Okay.
Yay.
Okay. Woohoo.
I don't know why I keep reading these books. I should know better. As soon as it's compared to Big Little Lies, I should have thrown it in the garbage and slapped myself across the face. I just don't understand the appeal. The women are so deplorable. They're weak and whiny.
Oh my.
Their husbands are mere window dressings with no personality. Then there is the surprising, or as I call them, stupid and predictable twists. And then, holy S, the stories all connect in the end. By the time the big reveal comes, who cares? I just wish they would all get swept into the ocean and stung by jellyfish.
Oh, that is so much better than I had even hoped.
Thank you, Dallas. You were right.
Writer,
That was funny.
To be able to summarize something so descriptively. I mean, it's not just I hated this book. Like the stung by jellyfish. I would read this person's book. I'm just saying.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how to continue quite after that.
Thanks, Dallas. That was fun.
We have to gain our composure back so we can ask serious questions.
We're going all the places, aren't we? We're going dark, we're going light.
Yeah. Oh boy. I knew that. Well, hey, that lightened the mood. I do have another question, Brenda, unless you want to jump in.
That's okay. You go with one.
Okay. So one of the things that I really loved about Heather's character is that you didn't go the normal cliche route of a younger wife. You know, most of the time we'll see a younger woman with an older man and we assume that he has money, or we assume like, oh, she must have daddy issues or something like that. But that wasn't the case with Heather. So what was your inspiration for Heather's character?
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because it really was important to me, and it is important to me with my books. I guess what I want to do is avoid cliches. I hate them. You know, I love turning cliches on their head. For one thing, I mean, if for no other reason, it's going to be more original, right? If you avoid those kind of tropes. But on a deeper level, I just don't find it real. Like as a writer, I find it really hard to look at people in shades. You know, that's a bad guy, that's a good guy. What's much more realistic and interesting is the idea that someone who does bad things is also good. You know, someone who, who has killed someone also loves their children and is kind to the elderly or whatnot. And so I love to capture those colors in a person. But on a deeper level, when I looked at the idea of the younger wife, you know, I thought, oh, I could write about this relationship. I write about family relationships, the younger wife, you know, why not? But it's been done, and it's been done, you know, compellingly with, as you say, the younger wife as a gold digger with father issues, the older husband with no agency. You know, we just assume he's in because she's young and attractive and you know, and whatnot. But that's sort of shortchanging the man as well, isn't it? Like, why couldn't there be real love between this couple? I mean, I know people who've got an age gap that have got a real relationship. Or if there is kind of nefarious intent, why is it the younger wives, and not the older husbands? Like, it just historically, we've given men such a leave pass in that scenario, and all the guilt goes on the woman. And again, as I said, and you know, I am a very strong feminist. I am, you know, someone who loves to tell the stories of women, and to turn that on its head felt like an interesting story. Whereas to write a story about a menacing younger wife, it would have sustained my interest for the whole book.
Well, and the interesting thing about that too is Heather was so relatable, because you want to apply that stereotype to her in the beginning, and it doesn't really stick, because we totally understand, why she does what she does, and she's trying to better herself, and she really does have feelings for Stephen, and so
she loves him.
It really it is sort of this tug of war during the book over her character.
Yeah, which is what life's like, isn't it?
The other thing I'd like to ask about is Tully and Rachel. They're such interesting characters, and like you said at the beginning, this book is just full of dysfunction. And even though Tully and Rachel are so dysfunctional, they seem to improve their relationship from their earlier years, and they have some very specific issues themselves. Well, we're in spoilers, so we can say, Tully is a kleptomaniac, and you become rather sympathetic for her in your description of that. And then Rachel has the issues from being raped as a teenager. How did you bring those sort of disparate attributes together to make them, complementary siblings? Boy, that was, I didn't mean to ask it in such a complicated way.
No, you actually, that makes complete sense to me. And the answer is because it does, when you could look at all of the things in the book individually, there is also, you mentioned there's kleptomania, there's the disordered eating, and in Heather's case, disordered drinking, right? So that's a lot of stuff going on in a book. And what really brings those together in my mind is coping mechanisms, because we all have them, right? As human beings, even if we haven't experienced trauma, let alone trauma that we haven't fully realized or accepted in our own body, people bite their nails, or they, pull out their hair, or they, some really smug people run, they go for runs to get rid of their, bad feelings. I'm always like, I eat chocolate or drink alcohol, or, but we all have coping mechanisms. And the bigger the trauma that we are facing or trying to conceal from ourselves, often the bigger the coping mechanisms and the more destructive they are. And that's where you can get into addiction and things like that. And so really, how did I kind of come up with those ones? I always like to explore something new in books. Of course, you could just say, yes, she's a drug addict, and she's something else. But I've been fascinated by kleptomania ever since. And I think that you guys will know, because she's American. Winona Ryder shoplifted back in the 90s. Yes. Do you remember? And it was world news.
Yes, I do.
And it was really,
it was a big deal.
It was a big deal, and people were appalled, because why would she steal? She has money. And I remember ruminating on that for a long time. And I don't think what she stole was of value that she couldn't have afforded. Like, it was something fairly innocuous. And for years I've thought about that. And I had a feeling that, she was going, you couldn't help but think she's in a bad place to be doing that. Things aren't good with her. But the more I learned about kleptomania, and I read some books about it, and I started to realize that it's not about the things. Kleptomania is not about getting the stuff. It's about the taking. It's the impulse control that is in many ways similar to biting your nails, or to, it's close to the OCD family, that you need to do certain things, you're compelled to do them, or, eating disorders, in a way that compulsion to do something that you can't control. And in its essence, it's a coping mechanism. And when I could sort of make sense of that with Winona Ryder, like, here's me in Australia still grappling with Winona Ryder's shoplifting in the 90s, because this is a writer's brain. I thought, well, this is an interesting coping mechanism that I could write about, both from being quite salacious, because people love the word kleptomania makes people go, ooh, you know, that's fun. But also because I love to be able to shed a bit of understanding and a bit of compassion or empathy where I can, to stop writing people who do bad things off as villains, you know, to make it clear that it's what it is, which is a coping mechanism of someone who's not coping. And so in each case, I brought something that evidenced what they were going through, and that was how they tied together, I guess, the idea that they were coping mechanisms. And then the closeness of the sisters, I guess, is that as they started to kind of step away from those, they were able to get close.
Yeah, that is an awesome description. I just wanted to mention too, related to the coping skills, my favorite quote in the whole book is when Darcy says, I mean, don't beat yourself up. This is to Rachel about her eating disorder. Don't beat yourself up for single-handedly saving yourself with the tools you had available to you. Where I come from, that's called survival. And that's so true.
Yeah.
There were so many parts and so many great quotes in this book, and things that just stuck with me, like the part where she was looking at her dad in jail and asked him, how do you know if a man is violent? And he said, well, provoke him. Like, I had chills to the bone, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'll ever forget that whole scene.
And the thing is, it doesn't take a lot of provocation in some cases. Well, I hate to do this, but we're going to switch gears again.
So someone's rung the doorbell, and now my dog is barking. It's the postman.
Oh, that's funny, because every once in a while mine bark. But we have another person who's going to pop in for a moment. And interestingly enough, it's also someone you talked about earlier. It's Anissa who's coming to collect on her debt.
Yeah, she's coming to collect your cash.
I'm good for it, Anissa. I'm gonna get you a lemon drop next time.
Hi, Sally. How are you?
Oh, I'm forever in your debt for bailing me out when I was broke.
I love this book, obviously. And Sally, one of the things that there was obviously many interesting parts, but one of the things that I found so interesting was the money that was put in the hot water bottle. And I was curious what your inspiration for that little tidbit there.
Yes, thank you, Anissa. The hot water bottle, and I think I do write about it in the book, actually. It came to me around the beginning of the book, where I was still grappling, younger wife, what's going to happen? How am I going to bring this together? And at the time, my beautiful great auntie Gwen, who I was very, very close to, she passed away in January. She gave me a call, and she told me she'd been taken to hospital, and she was sort of 91 at the time. And I was like, okay, I'm coming. Which hospital are you at? You know, I'll be right there. And she said, no, don't come to the hospital. She's very forthright, like my great auntie Gwen. I need you to go to my house, and I need you to get my hot water bottle. And I said, what kind of hospital is this? You know, like, is there heating? What's going on? I said, oh, I have a hot water bottle. I can bring you mine. Do you know what a hot water bottle is? Like a rubber bag that you fill with hot water to warm your feet. So, and she was really insistent. She said, no, you need to get my hot water bottle. I thought, this is weird. And she said, it's in my house. It's in the spare room behind the chest of drawers under a pile of newspapers. And I thought, now I'm interested. I'm going to get this hot water bottle. And so I jumped in the car, and it was quite a detour, right, to get it. So I thought, she wants this, like, something's going on. And, you know, she was a single 91-year-old savvy woman. I thought this could be interesting. So as I'm driving across town, I'm on the speakerphone with my family, and we're all chiming in on what we think that could be in it. And I thought, maybe body parts, you know, maybe she had a fiance back in the day that hadn't worked out. She was very dirty with him about how that went down. I thought maybe, you know, one of his, you know, digits or another body part might have ended up in there. And, you know, how perverse if she wanted that with her, you know, in what could be her final moments. My brothers thought maybe she was a granny drug dealer because, again, you know, she was independent till the end, and, you know, she wasn't a woman of huge means, but she, you know, was very proud. And, you know, it would be a good cover. Like, you'd never picture a 91-year-old to be a drug dealer. So we're all kind of at fever pitch, like, what is in this hot water bottle? And I got into the house and I went in, I retrieved it from its hiding spot, and it's full of cash. And I mean tens of thousands of dollars. And as I said, Gwen was not a woman of means. You know, that was a lot of money for her to have. She was on the pension. And I thought maybe she is a granny drug dealer. But long and short is that we got to the hospital and what is going on with this money? And it turned out that it was, I can say this now because she's gone to that, you know, that lovely place in the sky. But it was a little bit of pension fraud. So she'd have to get her money out of the bank each week, or they would give her less money. So she'd just stow it away in the hot water bottle. And a little bit of fear of banks. And that was what she was doing. But I knew as soon as I saw that, as soon as I had that experience, that someone finding a hot water bottle full of cash, and imagine if she was dead, like the what would have gone on in our brains of where that money came from. And I thought this can come together beautifully to be a book. And the book was dedicated to her, and she was so chuffed that she got to see that before she died. And the idea that the hot water bottle was included, was really special to her. And it was special to me as well, now that she's passed, that she's kind of you know, she continues on through her younger life.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
That is awesome. And thank you, Anissa, for coming on to ask that question.
Oh, well, thank you. It's good to see you, Sally. Good to see you.
Good to see. Are you having lemon drops, Anissa?
Not tonight. First night of school. We're already back in school. Maybe Friday.
Okay.
Good to see you, all three of you.
Good to see you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Anissa.
Bye.
Lemon drops all
my
around.
goodness. I know, right?
It's one of my favorite cocktails.
They're so good.
I know.
Yeah.
We're just scheming over here in the book club. We did want to give you a few minutes, Sally, to talk about your book that's coming out in November, and you mentioned something special that's coming up this month. Would you mind sharing that with everyone?
Yes, I'll do that one first. So I have been so excited. So earlier this year, I was asked to write a Amazon original story, and they, I guess, you know, collections come out every so often, and this collection is the summer collection. It's going to be out at I think it's August 30th, and this collection is called The Getaway. And so there's 6 of us who have been given the same prompt of a summer getaway. We're all thriller writers. There's Catherine Steadman, Ruman, oh my gosh, I've forgotten his last name, who wrote Where the World Ends, or anyway, there's 6 of us. I'm going to remember this afterwards and kick myself, but who have all written a short story, and that will be available to Amazon Prime members free. And I think that if you're not an Amazon Prime member, you can buy it for a couple of dollars. It's a short story. It's about 15,000 words, really fun. And I loved writing that. So I'm really excited about that one coming out. And The Soulmate, which is my new novel. Now, this is coming out in Australia in November, and it's April next year for the States. And the reason for that, I always have to field lots of angry comments from Americans when it's coming out earlier here and they're like, April. The reason for that is that both publishers like to have the book come out before summer. And so, of course, our summer over here is Christmas.
Oh.
Do you guys know that? Where it's hot as hell here when it's Christmas. So the books come out in November as we go in, and then December and January are our beach months when we're, lying on the beach. And so my Australian publisher wants it out then. And then obviously April is then leading into your summer in America. But this is the American cover. This is the ARC, the advanced reader copy. And the book, as you might guess, it's called The Soulmate, which makes it sound really lovely and romantic. But then the cover has got a cliff and some crashing, jagged looking rocks. So as usual, as you'll find in my books, there is a dysfunctional relationship. And in this case, it is the most dysfunctional of relationships, marriage. There is a little bit of murder, and there's a little bit of untangling of secrets. And the book kicks off with a couple who live on a cliff. They've got a beautiful seaside home on a cliff, and they think it's their dream home until they move in and they realize that the edge of the cliff, which is just on the periphery of their property, is a place that's really popular with people who go to end their lives. And that is really, really shocking and horrible to them until the husband in this couple realizes that he's actually an amazing cliff whisperer, as they call him. And in the year that they've lived there, 7 people have come to the cliff, and he has talked them all down through his just calm and gentle words. And in the first chapter of the book, so it's not a spoiler, a woman comes to the cliff. It's kind of dusk, and the family are inside, and they're cooking dinner, and they see that there's a woman there, and the husband, his name's Gabe, goes out to counsel her in the way that he's always done before. But as the wife watches through the window, she notices things are a little bit different. Like normally he stands further back. Normally he seems very calm. This time his arms are flapping around a bit. He goes quite close. And she looks away for a moment. And when she looks back, the woman has gone over the cliff, and her husband's standing in a position with his hands that look a little bit like he might have pushed her. So we then go forward in the story as we figure out what happened, and also back in the story as we figure out what led to that moment. And that's The Soulmate.
Wow, that's definitely a must read, Lisa.
I hope you enjoyed. I loved writing it, and it's my favorite book that I've written so far.
Wow.
That's saying a lot.
I was going to say that is saying a lot, because there were so many intricate relationships in this one. I just can't wait for that one. Yeah. So again, that's November in Australia and April 2023 in the US.
Yes, awesome. Early April 5th, I think. Yeah.
Well, we definitely want to read that short story as well. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we'll definitely share that on the page too.
Yes, definitely will. And I cannot believe it, but it is already 8 o'clock, or I guess 10 o'clock in the morning there.
Quickly.
It has just flown
this is
by.
So much fun. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was such an honor, and I love talking to you guys, and I'll do it anytime you want to have me.
Okay, well, we'll make a note of that. Lisa, write that down.
You heard it.
You've got it on film.
And next time you're in the States, lemon drops all around.
Yes, definitely. Can't wait.
Well, Sally, again, it was our pleasure having you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know our book club members have had a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for having me. Happy 2 years.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh my goodness.
What a night.
I know. And still we had so many questions that we didn't get to ask her.
Oh my gosh, chat. I'm sorry. There's so many questions in the chat. We could have part 2, part 3, but One thing I do want to do is I want to thank Kristen Harmel for popping in tonight. And I want to thank Anissa for popping in tonight. Sally was so excited. And I loved that she mentioned both of them, not knowing that either one was going to be on. So that was really cool.
I know. Isn't that special? Because that we didn't expect that. We just, had arranged it, and it just could not have been more perfect. Speak of Kristen Harmel, and in she comes.
You know what? I'm gonna have to start calling my Kristen Harmel out so she can just poof and show up in Atlanta so we can go shopping at Kate Spade.
The Kate Spade outlet.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I really loved The Younger Wife. And I didn't get to tell Sally, but another book of hers that I love was, I think it's called The Good Sister. I think. Oh, that one was really good too. So I'm looking forward to the Amazon story. And yeah.
Definitely I am too. And we, so many questions we didn't get to, but I'm going to be thinking about that book for a long time.
Yeah, me too.
And like she said, fiction has a way of sort of depicting the truth in a way that, the truth doesn't, or the facts don't. So, and that's what gets me so much, is it makes you think so much about all of those issues.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful read. And I actually listened to the audiobook, and it was a great narrative. I mean, it was a great narrator.
Yeah.
So that's awesome as well. We probably should make some announcements. Do you think it's time, Lisa?
Yeah, I do want to say one more thing though before we jump to that again.
Okay.
I'm honest, now that it's over, we're in the after show. I got a little emotional. I hope it wasn't so overwhelming. But to the book club member again, thank you for trusting me with that story, and God bless you.
Absolutely. And I thought that was the case, Lisa.
Yeah.
But
I'm an emotional person. Oh, I also want to say hi to Ron Block, who's watching live, our happy hour co-host that we love so much. We're his favorite people, so of course he's watching live. I don't know why I'm surprised. Like, I should not be surprised. Clearly, he loves us more than anybody else.
We won't ask him if it's us or Kelly Rimmer. So, like Sally did with Kristen, right? We're just going to take it at face value.
Funny. This is just so funny. Oh dear. Okay, yeah, we do have some announcements to make.
Okay, I'll kick it off with our next book club discussions. I am so excited for both of these. Our next discussion will be on September 19th with Kimberly Brock and The Lost Book of Eleanor Dare.
Yay.
And then
covers.
And October 17th with Stacy Willingham and Flicker in the Dark, which is going to be that perfect, spooky, suspenseful Halloween read.
Can't wait for that. I'm super excited.
Oh, I know, that is right up your alley, Lisa. So do you have any announcements that we should be aware of? I think there's a little something coming up.
I mean, we might have a little something, no big deal. Just Thursday night, we're going to be celebrating our 2-year anniversary with the Fab Four. And we will have some fun surprises and giveaways. It's going to be so much fun. You don't want to miss it. So tune in right here on the book club page Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, which we now know is 9 a.m. in Australia the next day.
In Australia, in case Sally wants to tune in.
In case Sally wants to come back. So, and another thing I did want to point out, because we are doing the celebration on Thursday night, and we did the takeover happy hour on the 3rd, we've had a couple people ask about Friday. Originally, we had scheduled a happy hour for August 19th, but we moved it to the 3rd when we did our book club takeover. So on Friday night, there is no live events on the page. You want to join us on Thursday for our 2-year anniversary because it's going to be like a happy hour. So we look forward to seeing you there.
Yay, Lisa. I'm so excited for our 2-year anniversary. It seems almost impossible
I can't believe it.
that it's been that long. But thank you, book club members, for tuning in and for reading these wonderful books. And we are so excited to join you again on Thursday night at 7 Eastern.
Yep.
Everybody take care. Happy reading.
Happy reading. PB&J out.
Now she's going to say that every time. Bye. Bye.